there.
Hey, friend.
How's it going?
How are you?
Are you having a good vacation?
Uh-huh.
I leave
Yeah.
Friday. I can't wait.
Where are you going?
To Little Gasparilla Island, right off of Boca Grande.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll be isolated, hopefully. I'm hoping cell service doesn't work. But first got to get through the next day. Oh, and actually I have tomorrow off, but I already have 2 meetings I have to be in, so I'm not really off tomorrow. You know how that goes.
Yes, I do. Yeah, and the email and it's been a long 2 weeks of, because if I didn't check it, I'm getting 100, 150 email a day.
Yeah.
Well, and if I didn't check it.
Well, I'm doing that, the reopening schools email. It was over 500 for 4 days running. I now have it down under 200, maybe not under 200, under 300. I think it's around 230 right now. And it's just nonstop. It's just, I can't get anything else done. We have 2 people waiting. Well, there's Jamie. I know her. One says owner. I have no idea who that is. And one says iPhone, but I don't think anybody else has our stuff. So I'll let them in just a minute. Michelle is in Northern Georgia. And
she's up here with me.
You don't want her with you. She has COVID. Yeah. So she emailed today, said, it's not a horrible, but she is not going to be able to get online because her service isn't good. And she wanted to let people know that, she doesn't even know how she got it, but that she's very concerned about people sending children back to, so I'm going to read her email basically at some point.
Wow. Wow.
But I realized I never downloaded the agenda. So I'm looking at last month's agenda. I figure they're pretty similar.
They're actually identical, except for I changed the text on the, not presentation, discussion around what you sent. Okay. That's it. Everything else is identical.
Perfect. So that's what I'll go from that. Okay, I guess I better start letting people in. Hey, Jamie. How are you?
Hi, everyone.
There.
Hey, Jamie.
Hey.
Right. We have a couple of minutes, and Mrs. Gittens may be a few minutes late because she is in another Zoom meeting. So we'll do what we can do. See how many people show up and kind of go from there. Everybody healthy? Yeah. So far, so good. Yeah.
Starting to get more and more friends who are being either exposed themselves or have somebody who has been. So it's starting definitely to make more of an impact than.
Yeah. My daughter's been tested twice. She's been exposed twice. Both times have been negative, but she feels like part of her brain is missing because they poke that thing up so far into your. Oh yeah, it's pretty nasty. She's been really lucky that like one of her very best friends tested positive who works at the hospital, and then her boss that she was carpooling with went to a wedding. There were 13 people at the wedding, 10 of them tested positive.
Oh my gosh.
It's scary. Yeah, and luckily Kaylee's been very lucky. She's still negative.
Is she home now or is she still?
God, no, I won't go near her. No, she lives down in Estera. She has her own apartment. She has a job, which pretty much covers her rent. Luckily, she doesn't eat much.
Mine's up looking for a place right now in Gainesville, and I'm like, you're going to school online, just stay at home. She's like, I'm going. I'm 19, I'm out. I'm like, okay.
She graduated. She graduated in May from FGCU, so.
That's awesome.
No more tuition.
Yeah.
And now she'll be paying her rent, hopefully, this month, with any luck.
Good luck.
Yeah, I know.
I have a couple of people I know that I grew up with. My name's Dennis Ryan. I have a couple of people I know, they're still at home and they're not paying anything, and their mother's still making their meals and stuff like that. I'm trying to teach my son to be independent. Trying.
Well, my kids both grew up knowing that they need to know how to cook, how to do their own laundry, and how to clean their own toilets, because I wasn't doing that for them. And they both keep a pretty decent house, amazingly enough, much better than I do.
I thought my kids were more prepared, but as I'm watching her get ready to go, I'm like, you do know how to cook at something, right? And she's like, I'm like, oh man, we got to work on a couple meals before you go. And she's good about chores, but not her bedroom. Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. No ramen noodles there?
I guarantee that's what she'll live on when she moves out.
That and Kraft mac and cheese. Well, it's 6:02. Let's see, we do have some more people waiting here, so let's get them in. There we go. 2 people. All right, so it is a little after 6. Welcome, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started. Mrs. Gittens is in another meeting. She will join us as soon as she can, since that one's over. And Dr. Stork is going to be unable to join us. She is in northern Georgia right now, and her internet connection is not good. But also she wanted to share with everyone that she has COVID symptoms, that she is isolating. She wanted to let everybody know that she's very, very concerned about school starting back face-to-face. And her daughter is a teacher, and she's very nervous about that. And she said, you know, as we're talking tonight and whatever recommendations the committee is moving forward with, that she just wanted people to keep in mind that, you know, this is very real, and there are, you know, a lot of things we need to consider. Of course, we know that we also have a mandate that says we will open schools. So we have a little flexibility within there, but not a whole lot. So just things to keep in mind as we go forward. So normally at this point, we would be listening to Mrs. Gittens. So we'll wait until she can get in. And we need to go ahead and approve the minutes. So we'll do that. We have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Thank you, Mr. Ribble. And a second.
Brian Rasnick seconds it.
Hi, Brian. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. So we'll move on. I don't see anyone that's not on the committee, so we don't have any public comment. So I'm just going to open this up for discussion basically this evening. You saw the PowerPoint that was presented to the board. I can give you a couple of updates on things. Honestly, things are changing hour by hour. It's just kind of crazy trying to keep up with things. We're working on getting the survey out to parents. It should have already gone out today, but we're waiting on a translation. So as soon as we have our Creole translation, we will get that survey out. And that will ask parents to choose one of 4 modules or learning models for their students to start with in the fall. So the 4 models are the ones that you saw on that presentation. So it's the full face-to-face, the Lead Home Connect, which I'll try to explain it, but I'll tell you there's going to be a video that will do a much better job of explaining it. But it will be a live synchronous, kind of like this, where the teacher will be teaching, the students will be like they're in the classroom, except they'll be on the computer. And there will be normal lessons, and it will move forward just as though they were in the classroom. And then we have Lead Virtual School, which is different. And let me back up. When they're at Lead Home Connect, they will be connected specifically with their school that they have always been registered for. So for example, Jamie's students at Challenger will still be connected to Jamie. And their place is held at Challenger. At the end of the quarter, they can decide to come back if they want to, or they can stay there for another quarter, and they can look at that each quarter as they go forward. Lead Virtual is a little bit different in that it's not a face-to-face with the teacher. It's more self-paced, and they have modules and that have to be turned in at certain times. And the teacher does do check-ins with them. They do have some Zoom type meetings, but it's not a daily event. And if students choose to do Lead Virtual, again, their school will be held for them, their spot in their school, but they will need to stay for a full semester with Lee Virtual. Then the other model is homeschool. And with that, the parent school's at home. The school does not provide, the district doesn't provide anything for that. That's the teacher is the parent. Then the fifth model that was in there was talking about if we have to go back to distancing, but if we go back to if everybody has to do distance learning, it will basically be the Lee Home Connect model. So we would do that. It would not be what we did in the spring. It would still be the face-to-face over the computer, as close to face-to-face in person as we can get. But obviously, if we have to shut down a school, a classroom, or if something happens and we are under a mandate to close schools again, then that's what we would go back to. The superintendent did ask the calendar committee to reconvene and to look at postponing the beginning of school for at least 2 weeks, possibly 3 weeks. So that recommendation obviously hasn't come out yet. They're considering several different models. They would look at maybe everybody moving back, the 2 to 3 weeks. They may look at starting a virtual model before the end of that 3 weeks. Like teachers may come back, but the regular on August 3rd, start a virtual kind of training or getting prepared in their classrooms, or there are lots of different options. And then start virtual on August 10th. We just don't know. Some of the things that they're considering or taking into consideration, the biggest one is pay, because we know that a lot of our people who are not 255-day teachers, paraprofessionals, drivers, they got a paycheck at the beginning of the summer. Most of them don't do that every 2 weeks. Most of them get a lump sum at the beginning of the summer, and by the end of the summer, they need another paycheck. So we're trying to make sure that everyone gets paid on schedule. We do have a little bit of leeway in that we do pay in arrears. They might be able to adjust something. They may be able to add days at the end. So they're looking at all those different options, but they definitely want to make sure that people are not going without a paycheck during that time. So he plans to make an announcement on Monday, but that may not be a detailed announcement. That may just say, we are going to postpone until the state, but we're not sure what we're doing yet. It may be, we're going to postpone and we're not sure which date. And then it may be, here's exactly what we're going to do, but I wouldn't bet on that one. So it's very complicated. So that's the update so far. So I'm just going to now open it up to questions that you have and anything that you may want to consider in terms of recommendations we'll talk about toward the end of the meeting. Any questions about the models, about procedures?
Now, I was a school board member for 10 years in Illinois. I was also the director. I was also the director of the Illinois Association of School Boards for the South Cook Division. Back when H1N1, I think it was 2009, we had that pandemic that came and was fortunately nothing like today. I look at a lot of different things from the different places I've been and the different things we've worked with, one-to-one technology and things of that nature. And I remember talking with a professor about the virtual, the Lee Connect type programs and how the paraprofessionals can be more helpful, or if the teacher, they called it a flip class at the time, put their first class out and then we were able to walk around with their students. That's when you had students. The parents that I talked to, people I work with and neighbors and community members had concerns as their children were older, not as much so much for the younger ones because they were more adaptable, but for the kids 6th, 7th, 8th grade, high school, about the rigors of their curriculum and not being able to get some of the things done or not being able to talk to some of the teachers and things of that nature. And I just thought if you had to do that Lee Connect type thing, that is a way to help, with the paraprofessionals, if they can help those students, because as a teacher, they get inundated with questions quite easily. And I know, when you talk about the virtual, the 24/7 type thing, we had programs where kids could log on to programs. And when we looked at the times that they were doing them, a lot of them were at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, because kids were so busy with extracurricular activities or jobs or whatever the case may be. They need structure in their life. It's a pandemic. It's been, unprecedented times. And yet they're adaptable. We're adaptable. And somehow I'm sure that the school district will figure out what's best for your teachers, your students, and the community that we serve.
Thank you. And as a former school board member, you know that there are no simple decisions when it comes
Not at
to
all.
this. It's,
It's pretty tough right now.
yeah.
I can say that as a teacher and a parent, I've been really impressed with the communication. As a teacher, we get weekly updates from the superintendent. As a parent, that information has been shared on social media. It's been on their website. They've been doing parent messenger. I have a friend who lives in another state, and they have not gotten one word about even proposed plans for their children to return to school. And it creates this anxiety with the parents, because ultimately we're going to get pushback no matter what is decided. There's always going to be a percentage of people who it doesn't meet their needs. So the more in advance we get the idea to ponder these different options for our kids, I think is going to decrease the anxiety for parents. So I think it's a really great job. I'm happy with them a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's, that's been a real consideration in the pandemic task force meetings. Every day that we meet, there's something about what do we need to make sure that the parents know, and when do they need to know it? What do we need to make sure that staff knows, and when do they need to know it? And I would say that, we're not 100% pleased with the way it's gone, but doing the best that we can to get that information out there as quickly as possible. And a lot of times there's a lot of misinformation out there that we're trying to overcome. There's a lot of things out on social media that just aren't true. And for example, there was a question: does everybody have to sign a waiver to return to work? And that was never ever put out there. There was a waiver for people 65 and over, or with health conditions, when we were under the stay at home. That if you wanted to return and you'd been told by the governor to stay at home, you had to sign a waiver saying that you were going to do that. But there was never any consideration. Mrs. Gittens is waiting. Never any consideration of everyone having to sign a waiver. So trying to get that message out and trying to get clear communication, is a daily struggle. Welcome, Mrs. Gittens.
Thank you. I'm sorry. It's been meeting after meeting today.
Yes,
and hello, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me join. How's everyone?
We're happy to have you as our new liaison. So welcome. We'll back up. We were just doing some, had opened it to general comments and questions, but if you have a board report that you would like to give, we'll stop now and do that and then go back.
Not actually, except that we are knee deep in reopening right now and making sure that everyone is aware of what options are out there, listening to every meeting that I'm in, and group that I deal with. There's always questions about the reopening, and I always describe it as a moving target. You know how you used to go to the games and the little duck just keeps moving? Well, this one keeps moving. And there's always something else that comes up. So kudos to the staff. They did a wonderful job of a presentation today that's out there on Facebook. So if anyone is really interested in questioning what is going on, that is a perfect place. It's on YouTube and it's also on Facebook. And I have shared it on my Facebook page. So maybe that's something everyone else can do to let everyone know what's going on. So that is like the overarching thing, of course. Will they or won't they? And when will they and how will they is the question that we're dealing with. Make sure that everyone in your community and in your circles is aware that probably the end of this week or the beginning of next week, will be the survey. And the survey is really, really important because we have 95,000 students, and which means that number of families or more that need to weigh in, because everything is kind of this moving target. We need to know how many families are going to choose this, this, or this, so that we can staff, so that we can figure out how we're going to go forward. So it's a lot of moving pieces. Please let us know if there's any questions. There are emails to the board or to the reopening committee, and I'm sure Cindy has that email. She doesn't want to share it, but because she's so busy. But thank you to everyone in the community for participating, and I'm sure that this committee is going to play an integral part as well in the reopening and how we do things, and just getting, it's an advisory board, so we need to be advised from the community things that we may not think about. It takes the village, it really does. And I'm so happy to be with the committee, and thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gittens. I was laughing when you mentioned the emails.
The email, I know.
There's a lot. There's a lot. but
I won't say.
I think that the emails that have come in, the themes in those emails were the same ones that were asked today in the Facebook Live. So even though we have literally thousands of emails, really the topics are pretty limited. It's what are the models? Explain them a little bit more, which there will be a video that'll be posted later this week that will explain those. So I'm really looking forward to that, because my trying to explain it is certainly not as well done. What are the safety precautions? And those are still being determined. We will have a toolkit online within the next week that will list a lot of that information. And I think people will feel much more comfortable. But everybody wants an answer right now. We all do. Teachers particularly want an answer right now. Am I going to be able to teach virtually? Well, we don't know how many students we will have that want to go virtually, so we can't promise you today that you will teach virtually. But they're working on negotiations with the unions association. The HR has been, they're actually getting ready to send out a teacher survey. And that survey is very interesting, because it's asking them to rate different areas for each of the models. So for example, in face-to-face, what on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you with the safety? How safe do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10 in each of those 4 models? Then how comfortable are you with your ability to teach in each of those 4 models? How comfortable are you with your students' ability to learn? And then how comfortable are you with the resources that are being provided? So I think that will give us a lot of information, so that when it does come time to match up, we have a better idea of, this person says, I don't really feel safe teaching virtually, but I'm going to need a whole lot more resources because I'm not sure what I'm doing yet. So that'll give us that information. We'll know what type of training needs to be provided. And then obviously we'll need to look at, the numbers. So HR has been doing just an amazing job of gathering information and trying to provide options and let people know, what their options are. And unfortunately, until we know from our parents what models they're going to choose, there's not a whole lot more we can do in terms of helping teachers feel better about how they're going to be teaching. The safety.
And I would just, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, the name of this committee is just so relevant: continuing systemic improvement. And we have never been in a situation like this. We've never had to deal with it. And as we go along, we continue to improve in how we do it. And that's what is so important, is to be, I think the word they said today was flexible. And we just hope that everyone in the community is as flexible as we have to be in getting to the conclusion of this. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say that pretty much along those lines. we're asking for patience and understanding that we don't have all the answers today, and that we're trying to get the information out as quickly as possible. The safety precautions, we've been working directly with the Department of Health and also with Lee Health and looking at their recommendations, trying to, it changes daily, sometimes hourly. So trying to set up the safest environment for learning and working that's possible. And that's going to take a lot of change. And so, that it takes time to get those things in place. Right. So other questions or comments?
Cindy, could you
Cindy, this is-
send us the video that they're talking about that's on Facebook? Because I'm having a hard time finding it. And then also, I guess you're saying there's a YouTube video that's going to be coming out this week. Could you also send us a copy of that so we're up to date?
When that comes out, I will definitely send everybody the link to that. I have not seen it. It was recorded earlier this week, but I don't know if it's been finalized.
Okay.
The meeting from today was on both. It was on Facebook and I believe it's on YouTube.
Yes, that one I can send you. That one I know that it's finalized, but the video that the academic services team had put together that explains each of the different models, I'm not sure if that one's ready to go yet.
Okay, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hey, Cindy, this is Brian Rasnick.
Hey, Brian.
I wanted to make a couple comments. Number one, being on this committee and part of this school district and a parent of this school district, I couldn't be more proud of the district and our board members. We are so far ahead of most of the other districts that I've seen in the state of Florida. And it just makes you feel good because we seem like we really have our stuff together. So I'm proud of that. One of the questions that I'm hearing a lot of, I guess there's two things. One of the questions that I'm hearing a lot of is on some of the academies in the high schools. There's a schedule for those academies that says you have to take this class freshman year, this one's sophomore year, and so on. And if a child uses the Lee Connect, it's my impression that a lot of the academies, they won't be able to take those classes on Lee Connect. And so my question is, and a lot of the questions that I'm hearing from people is, are they going to be able to get back on track at a certain point? So if they were supposed to take something sophomore year and they're not able to because they're on Lee Connect, how are they going to get back on track in the future? So that's the first component of my question. And then I have another comment. And the comment is that I'm friends with a lot of teachers on Facebook, and I see teachers on Facebook, and there's a lot of negative press that's coming because the teachers seem to feel like they're very uncomfortable, and what they're putting out in the community on a social network is their comfort level hasn't been satisfied yet. They all seem very, very worried to go back to school, and that's probably not the message that the district wants to send out. And I'm hoping that there's going to be some communication to the teachers saying, hey, we need to really jump on board and support this. But obviously for them to get to that point, they need to be made comfortable or themselves. So those are my two comments, the academies and then the teachers.
Thank you. I am not sure what the status is with the academies, so I don't want to speak to that, but I will check on it and I'll get that information to you. I do know that the programs such as ACE and IB, that those will continue through Lee Home Connect because those can be taught that way. Some of the academies require that hands-on time, like it's really hard to build, to fix a car if you're not in the automotive class, or to weld if you're not in the welding room. So those, I'm not sure what the plan is for those, but I will find out. And the other question about the teachers, we do have some very vocal teachers who don't feel comfortable, and we're working to try and, as I said, match those people who really don't feel comfortable coming into the classroom to be able to allow them to teach virtually. A lot of that will depend upon our numbers. The other thing with that is looking at those emails, we still have a lot of people who want to come back, who are ready to come back, but they're not quite as vocal. So I think this survey that's going out to teachers will give us a better idea of what our true numbers are. Mrs. Gittens, I see your hand raised.
Yes, I just wanted to say another thing to watch to get more information is our workshop that we had with the board and superintendent and staff today. And in the beginning, there were quite a few questions about the reopening, and a lot of the teacher questions were brought up. And Dr. Pruitt did say, and I know that a lot of the teacher questions have to do with negotiating with the union and not bargaining, but agreements with the union. So this is one of those moving targets again. We'd like to be able to say to the teachers, well, we're going to do this or we're going to do this, but it has to be negotiated with the union first. And so we are asking, if you know teachers or anyone that's talking and asking questions, tell them to get in touch with the union and definitely send in their questions, because when the union meets an executive meeting with the district staff, they'll have all their questions and their information. And she did mention that they may be meeting either later this week or the beginning of next week. So, like I said, another moving target. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, sir. Mr. Going. Let me see if I can unmute you. There you go. I don't think you're muted now. Oh, still can't hear you. Sorry. If you go down to the bottom of your screen and roll across it and at your the little picture of the microphone, there's a little arrow. Click on that and see if it says microphone array at the very top, if that should be checked. Now we're hearing you. I think hearing somebody. Not you. Okay, sorry. If you get it going, put your hand, wave at me again, and we'll get you. Thank you. Other comments or questions? All right. So are there any recommendations that the group would like to put forward for the board to consider related to the reopening plan? Oh, I should back up and say that last month you did put forward the recommendation around looking at different types of tutoring that were available. And Dr. Spiro thought that was an amazing idea, and he has taken it to his team and they're working on that.
That's great news to hear. Did we get any additional information on like any type of additional funding support and things like that?
I did ask about that, and Terry Kennedy is our director of grants, and she said that they are definitely exploring all of those options. And I specifically mentioned the ones who had brought those up. Someone brought up some very specific. Oh, Mr. Ripple, you had brought up some specific ones, and she said yes, they were aware of those and were investigating those.
Okay, good.
Mrs. Gittens.
Yes, that's excellent to hear that you guys mentioned tutoring. I would like to add to that mentoring. We have very, I guess, steep hill to climb with our students as far as mental health. And, coming back to school, many of them have been through an awful lot with family members with the illness and with all types of things going on in their lives and their community and their world. And I just would love to see some type of a mentoring of course, a safe mentoring, but that could look as simple as a Zoom call with a student once a week, just so they can see you and talk with you, and you read a book together, or just ask them how they're doing, because to some their world has gotten very small, because their world is at school and around school and education, and going home it starts to shrink again. So we're going to have to expand it in a safe way. But I would just like to throw that out there, the mentoring piece. It just takes 30 minutes a week, and asking a teacher, or adopting a school and saying, give me the name of one of your most needy students that would benefit from this. The social workers are going to be extremely busy, and maybe they can provide the name of a child that could just to have someone to talk to that's not at their house. So I just add that.
Thank you. Any other comments or recommendations?
Well, I think that's a great idea. And not to mention, I mean, you can even consider peer-to-peer mentoring within the classroom, or even our middle school or high schoolers doing some kind of mentoring with elementary or something like that. But I think that just even listening from my daughter's standpoint is in middle school, and even our educators, our teachers that I talk to every day, I think they just miss that social interaction. And I think summer has been one of those scenarios where, we finished distance learning, but now we're in summer school, and we're not really working anymore. We're kind of still at home the whole time. So I think a lot of them miss that interaction, even if it was distance. So I think that additional support, whether it's through tutoring or mentoring, is definitely critical right now for the mental wellness.
I was looking to see, I'm pulling up that recommendation because it may have included mentoring, so I'm checking loading on it right now. I think I mentioned, but in case I didn't, there is a toolkit that's coming out next week, or within the next week, that has pretty much any information that we have available that will be in there. It will look at each of the models. It will look at all the different precautions. It will look at what's recommended at the school level and at the district level. I think people will find that reassuring. And I think that will answer a lot of the questions that are out there right now.
Let me ask a question. As Ms. Gittens was saying earlier about the mentoring and things of that, it brought back a thought process when I was a kid about a TV show called Family Classics, and the guy would get up and he would talk, and then he'd show a movie or something like that when you talk about mentoring. It just made me think about messages coming from the school district, whether it be from a science teacher or English teacher or physical education, with maybe 10 minutes of like a pep talk type thing that kids could click on, or it could be sent out into the community and things of that nature. In the social emotional aspect of things, I mean, that's been one of the biggest challenges with our students and our population today, is keeping them in their mindsets, healthy and things of that nature. We are in an unprecedented time, and there's a lot of anxiety and unknown. And so those type of things can possibly help children, staff, and the community itself, because, somebody said, oh, I heard on Facebook this, or, my neighbor said that, but it needs to come from the district. It needs to come from the top down and to the people that are in the district too, because there's a lot of miscommunication, as you referred to earlier. Just a thought.
Good idea. I did pull up that recommendation. The wording does include mentoring. It said, we recommend the district explore opportunities to provide tutoring to students that are in need of assistance at all levels, including non-traditional options such as online tutoring, peer tutoring, mentoring, etc. So that is in there. So they will be looking at those. But yeah, I do like your idea about just getting those messages out from different people. I know some teachers were doing that last quarter, just, a quick little message out to their students, but it's a great idea to get that information from different people within the district. Did you want to put that in the form of a formal recommendation?
Me?
Yes, sir.
Certainly.
All right. And
I got a
Julie,
million.
Julie is our secretary, so if you will tell her how you'd like that, she'll get it in writing for us.
Okay. I'll send you an email on that.
Okay. So for us to put it forward as a recommendation, we'll need to vote on it as this committee recommendation. So if you can give us a generalization of it, and then you can send the specific wording to Julie.
Okay. So, for instance, you could have a gym teacher talking about the importance of physical fitness, especially when people are sitting at home when they could be out walking or running in the playground or whatever the case may be, and the importance of keeping yourself healthy in a time like that. You could have a librarian talk about the importance of reading books and keeping current with maybe even classics at a time when there's not a lot to do for some people because they don't know how. And so by giving tidbits of information and 5-minute, 10-minute little segments of time, it could help reassure even the public as far as maybe an administrator or a principal saying, at our school, we're doing everything to keep our schools safe and clean and our students healthy and our community thriving, and just to reassure the public with positive reinforcement and positive messages to help reassure everybody that we're doing everything we can.
So if I were to put that in the form of a recommendation, see if this sounds sort of like what you're saying. So the recommendation would be that district staff develop short messages to send out to the public related to their area of expertise, such as a PE teacher discussing the benefits of exercise, or a librarian talking about a book of the month or something that students could be reading, something along that line. Does that get what you're saying? Almost like a public service announcement?
Exactly.
Okay. So do I have a motion? Well, you made the motion. Do I have a second on that
I'll
recommendation?
second
Thank you, Mr. Ribble. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That sounds unanimous, but I'll ask
Aye.
any opposed. Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Any other recommendations? All right. Do we have anything for good of the order?
No, I just wanted to comment, Cindy. I know we're all kind of like deaf mutes here tonight, but I'm sure everybody went through the packet that you sent out. There's a lot of information there, but it seems to be evolving. There's so many unknowns at this point in time. So it's tough for me to make a recommendation because you folks pretty much have everything covered here. But I guess we're just not sure which direction we're going to go. And that's why I guess there's going to be a delay for the opening for, you had mentioned another 2 or 3 weeks. Is that correct?
Well, it's not really so much the direction. We know we will offer those models, so that is a definite. It's a matter of where do we stand in terms of the pandemic when it's time to open. And our health department right now is saying that we may be better pushing back the opening a little bit to give us time to see if that curve is going to flatten a little bit. Because, I mean, you've seen the headlines, we're peaking, we're setting new records every single day. And that drives, that drives a lot of fear when it boils right down to it. So it's hard for people to feel comfortable saying, here we are with a lot more people in the hospital, really pushing on the capacity of our local healthcare providers. And when we open back up, even though students are not necessarily shown to be a huge at-risk group, we bring back 13,000 employees. So that's a lot of people that are not students that are going to be in closer proximity than they have been in 4 months. So, we're looking at a lot of things other than just, are the students going to to be healthy. It's also, are the people who are going to be delivering those services going to be healthy? So daily contact with the local Department of Health and with Lee Health, and really a lot of the decisions are based around their recommendations. We don't know what it's going to look like, you know, August 10th. Or even August 3rd. We just don't know. So that's why, as Mrs. Gittens said, it is that moving target. We're doing our best to, you know, to get as much information out there as quickly as we can, but just not knowing. You're right. It's constantly evolving.
Yeah, I think Brian said it best earlier. I mean, you folks have put a great contingency plan forward. I mean, you have all your options covered. Now it's just to figure out which way the best way of application and moving forward is. And unfortunately, I don't think any of us really know what that is at this point. But at least I think the board and the committee they had in place did an outstanding job putting this together. I was impressed with reading it.
Thank you. Thank you. Mrs. Gittens.
The only comment that I would make in our meeting today, we did talk about the fact that we have opened, as you've probably seen, the sports in a limited form for practices, et cetera, et cetera. We also have a limited number of summer school programs at a few schools. And I look at those as a microcosm or a sample of what it is we're looking at doing. Because we've got a small number of students that are gathering together, some for sports, some for learning. And Dr. Pruitt and Dr. Spiro agreed, watching those particular activities very carefully, because they are a microcosm of what we could be in for if we open up totally. So if I were you to want to, you know, watch what's going on, watch those two things, the summer programs. The summer school started Monday, like 5 or 6 schools across the district, and the sports have been going on for the last couple of weeks. So as they go, there go we, and that's how we are learning as well. We can't do this one again, or this worked wonderfully, so let's do this. So.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Anything for good of the order?
No, I just wanted to know what an amazing job you guys have done in trying to keep, you know, everyone's situation in mind, that be the teachers, the kids, the community members, and having us, you know, here with you guys today to share our feedback. I mean, I would agree that in working with the teachers and obviously parents and kids myself, I've heard as well that it feels like it's easier to continue the path right now as we are, because we know where the kids are going to daycare or to school, or out a couple weeks because we know, okay, yeah, we're getting there, versus going back too early and then having to revert back, especially going into the peak of the cases as well as going into flu season. So definitely difficult for you guys, and I appreciate you guys very much for all you're doing, and just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll pass that on. We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Cindy,
And
this is Brian Rasnick. One more question.
Yes, sir.
That we've heard quite a bit is about the density of the classes, the class size. So if there's a classroom that needs to have social distancing and it used to have 24 students in it, is there going to be a modification, or are we spreading kids out so there will be less kids per classroom?
Again, we don't know. You know, I hate to keep saying that, but that's one of those things. We don't know for beginners how many students will be coming back face to face. So that, you know, if we have, say in first grade, and where we would normally have maybe 6 classrooms, and we only have enough students for 4 classrooms, but we have 6 teachers that want to do that, then we may, you know, then obviously we would have smaller class sizes. But at this point, it's just a wait and see how many people are going to be where. They'll do their best to, you know, to do that, but again, it will depend on numbers.
And someone mentioned earlier, I think it was Mr. Ribble, about, you know, yes, that we are doing a good job and not knowing, you know, what we don't know. But let me just say that if you know, wake up one morning and you think, I wonder, have they thought of this? Then make sure to share it, because it may just be the one thing we have not thought of. And so there's no such thing as an unnecessary idea. They're all necessary, and just looking at things with more eyes is going to make it much better and safer for our children.
Thank you. Any other good of the order? Okay, seeing that, I would take a motion to end the meeting.
I'll make
Thanks,
the motion.
Cindy.
Okay, I heard it.
Nobody wants to leave, Cindy.
Well, we can just hang out here, but Mr. Ribble had a motion, and Lucinda, did I hear a second?
No, I said yes, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Mrs. Gittens, was that a second? Did I see a hand go up there? Thank you. Okay. All in favor of ending the meeting?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Aye.
Have a wonderful evening. Thank you
You
again
heard
for
that,
your input.
right?
We appreciate it.
Thank you all so much. Be safe.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you, everybody, for what you're doing. It's appreciated throughout the
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody stay safe and healthy.
You too.
Bye-bye.